Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson. Hello.
I'm back again.
And congratulations on winning the recent election.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it is nice to be back. It's nice to have the confidence from my fellow councillors to continue on for another year. Of course, we've got general elections on the 14th of September next year, and we will have a different council then, because if nothing else, if all 10 councillors stood and we all got re-elected, well, there's going to be an 11th one added, because we'll have 11 councillors after the election next year. So this is the last year with this group of 10 together, and there'll be some different makeup next year. So it's good to be mayor, and we returned our deputy mayor as well, Richard Ivey, so it'll be good to have the consistency of the same mayor and deputy mayor for the next year.
All right, and you retained your position over Josh Black, 7-3, so a good result.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, yes, maybe not from Josh's perspective, but look, we after the meeting we had dinner and sat around and said, right, well, we had that battle, let's move on and let's do the right thing for the community, and everyone agreed. And the same thing with the deputy mayor election. I think it was the same. You do the election, it's over, and you all move on and make sure you're doing the right thing by the community.
That's what you want to see, and was it yesterday you got to Bathurst?
I went down to the Bathurst races. This is an iconic event. I remember going there when I was much younger. In my teenage years, I used to try and get down there on a regular basis there. So it's good to go along there and have a look at that. And one of the things that I love about that is that even though it's not in Dubbo's local government area, it still brings people to regional locations. And I think that's very important. When I was a lot younger, it used to feel like it was a lot of competition between Dubbo and Orange, or Orange and Bathurst, or Tamworth and Armidale. And so you used to get this competitiveness around the various cities, all trying to get things for their own city. What I found now, as we've all grown up and matured, and we've got various groups that work together, regional cities, New South Wales and Evo cities, two that spring to mind, then it's always good just to see things happening in regional locations. So I did go down at the invitation of the Mayor of Bathurst. I went down there yesterday and looked at the Bathurst event, and 200,000 people going through the event over the event, over the 4 days of the event. So it is a huge event, but just talking to different people, there was a couple of people there I spoke to, for example, they'd never been to Bathurst, they'd never been to the races, they were from Sydney, and I thought, great, there's some people that have discovered that the sandstone curtain is not a brick wall. You can go over it. You can discover things out in these areas. So it is a great event for Bathurst, but a great event for regional New South Wales.
It certainly is, and you're so spot on. It's nice to have a bit of intertown rivalry and to have a bit of particularly in sports and all that sort of stuff, but we have to work together as a whole, as Western New South Wales.
You're absolutely right, and don't get me wrong here, I'm still keen for Dubbo to beat any other community around the region in sport, but again, it just comes down to working together, because I think we can achieve a lot more when we work together for things, and even when we're approaching government. When we approach government as each individual city or town and try and get things for our community, then it's harder for a government to make decisions around that compared to a group. And we've got our Alliance of Western Councils, which we've talked about before. Craig Davies, the Mayor of Narromine, is the chairperson of that. And that group, again, works very well together. So that encompasses Burke and Brewarrina and Cobar and all these various communities in this region. But we think the region has a stronger voice with that alliance rather than each individual community.
And you as Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, and Dougal Saunders as the member for Dubbo in the State Parliament, and Mark Colton as the federal member for Parks, all work well together.
Yeah, absolutely right. And we do have a regular event that happens nowhere else in this nation. And I've talked to various politicians and various mayors from around the nation, and they all love the idea, but it's actually difficult in some areas, believe it or not, getting those three levels of government to talk together. And I have a very good relationship with both Mark and Dougal, and they work well together. Having that concept where we stand around at an open forum on a regular basis, nowhere else does that. So we did our regular one on Saturday morning. We had that at different locations. We changed it around a bit. In this particular time, we did it at the farmers markets. So we basically just set up a pop-up there. we have the three of us there, as well as councillors and some senior council staff. And basically, whatever you want to talk about, come and talk to us about things. And so one of the things that's fascinating about that is that I had people come and talk to me about things that were specific to council. So South Dubbo Bridge was a topic that a few people came and spoke to me about. And that's something that is well and truly within council's control. So that's fine. I had people talking about what time we lock the toilets and some of the pathways around Dubbo, and whether that could be extended or brought earlier. That's something in council's control. So fantastic. Talk to me about that and we'll go through that process. But then I had someone come along and talk to me about a particular function or a particular building they've got that serves a function in the community that really cuts across NDIS. So fantastic. The federal government's responsible for that. I've got Mark Colton there. Oh, Mark, can we come and have a joint conversation with this lady about this particular issue? Then someone else had a topic around transport for New South Wales. So Dougal, can we have a chat about this? Because that cuts across to state government. So there's these areas that are blurred lines. Having all three there means that we can't pass the buck to each other, but also we can probably solve problems easier. So I'm a really big fan of those. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm in the position of mayor and whenever we've got a willing state and federal member, then we'll continue to have those meetings.
Such a good idea. Now, you also got a meeting tomorrow night, being Tuesday night, in regards to the referendum, the voice referendum.
A really important thing I believe, and certainly our council believes, is that we shouldn't be directing people how to vote in the referendum. This is a decision. We live in a democracy where you can make your own decision, but education is incredibly important. So we've put a panel together. We've got 4 members of the panel, 2 that are in favour of a yes vote, 2 that are in favour of a no vote, and we've got a moderator. And at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night, we've basically got a meeting at the Dubbo Regional Theatre and Convention Centre where anyone can come along and listen to that discussion, listen to that debate, and then hopefully be more informed. They'll be able to ask questions. You can submit questions beforehand. You can register beforehand or turn up on the night. But I think that's a really important thing just to make sure you're educated. Pre-polling is already started. People are already voting at the moment, but obviously election day for the referendum is this Saturday, the 14th of October. So that's what we think we can contribute to the voice. We can contribute to the whole discussion is putting on that panel discussion to let people get exposed to that, and we'll live stream that as well if people don't want to go along or can't make it along in person.
We're speaking to the Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson. Community batteries, there's an idea of creating one in the region.
We've got a few people in Dubbo that are pretty keen to see a community battery. And community batteries are typically best when you've got an area that's got lots of people with rooftop solar. And Dubbo a few years ago became the number 1 rooftop solar connector per capita in this nation. So we've got lots of people with rooftop solar. Fantastic. Then you look at what you might do, looking at different plans that are available, different options, and some people will end up putting a battery in their house. But when you've got one set of solar panels and one battery, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Community batteries are when you combine a number of households. How many households? I don't know. I'm trying to find out these answers. And I was at a conference recently, Rod, and there was a person there who discussed the idea of community batteries. And I went, fantastic. I finally got someone that is an expert on this. So I've talked to that particular person. I've been referred on to another organisation, had another meeting there. I've got some more meetings coming up. It's a complicated process to try and get to the bottom of this, but we have got residents in Dubbo who are very keen to see a community battery in their area. I'm trying to find out the right number of households, how you go about connecting up with various plans, how you work in with your local electricity infrastructure provider. It's a complicated process, but I think it's one that's important to solve, in particular when you've got lots of people with rooftop solar. So I'll keep you up to date on that one. I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm working my way through those answers.
Be good to hear. And you recently had a meeting with the Energy Infrastructure Organisation.
Well, the Commissioner, Andrew Dyer, has been appointed as the Australian Energy Infrastructure Commissioner. His main role is to deliver a report back to Chris Bowen, the Federal Minister for Climate Change and Energy. And his entire focus for this report is community engagement as it relates to some of the renewable energy projects. Now, if you look at the Dubbo area, the Central West Arana Renewable Energy Zone that we're part of here, there are 37 projects that are either completed in various stages of planning or somewhere in that whole spectrum of planning processes. And in amongst all of that, they've got to do various community engagement. Are they doing it right? How are they going with that? Are they getting too much community engagement? Are people getting to the stage where they're going, oh, another community engagement? Haven't we been engaged about this already? You've also got Energy Co building transmission lines. They've got to do community engagement. Their toll environmental impact statement is out on public display now. So Andrew Dyer's job is really just to work out what's the best way to do community engagement? How can we get that right? And so I met with him and a few other mayors from around the nation as well to discuss a few things. And one of the things I love about that is you're talking to Andrew about different things, but when you're hearing from other mayors, there was one thing that I found fascinating. One of my great frustrations with renewable energy in New South Wales, and I've spoken to both the last government and the new government about this problem, is that solar projects don't have any compulsion to pay any money in a planning agreement. So when you have a solar project, it doesn't go through council. Council is not the consent authority. It goes to a higher level, Western Regional Planning Panel typically, or significant state significant development process. So you've got an issue there where it doesn't come through the council, but then you also don't get any sort of community benefits fund. But wind projects do have a compulsion for a community benefits fund, so you typically get some money for the community out of that project. When we heard from one of the Queensland mayors, he was very frustrated that it was the complete opposite. Wind projects had no community benefit funds that were required, but solar projects were really good for them because they got some money out of those. So it was interesting to see that was different in two different states just next door to each other.
And what's happening with Sheraton Road?
Well, finally, we've got a bit of action up there. One of the things that was really important that this new council did early on was connect Boundary Road through to Sheraton Road. That was a fantastic connection piece, and that meant that people that were going up to Sheraton Road, which has got a number of schools there and Bunnings, so it's a popular area, they could access it via the highway, across the Mitchell Highway, or access it now via Boundary Road. But the problem that was then exposed was the section of Boundary Road that connected up then across to Sheraton Road. There's a small section of Sheraton Road there that was in pretty poor condition because typically it had been used only by some trucks from a quarry around that area. So we need to do some work along there. Now we've got a big long-term project to move that heavy truck traffic out through Blue Ridge, through a Blue Ridge Connector Road or a Blue Ridge Link Road, and then basically do some major reconstruction work on Sheraton Road. But we don't think we can wait that long to do that. So during the school holidays, because obviously a lot of school traffic wasn't there during the school holidays, we did some work there, mainly some heavy patching work on a 450 metre long section, and also built a new 800 metre long bitumen sealed footpath so that some of the kids that access the schools there have got a footpath to go along rather than go along that road, which isn't ideal. School's obviously back today, so that'll be good to see that bit of section of road finished up with the footpath done. And again, it's not the final solution, but it's at least a solution along the way to the final solution.
A lot of council work is like that, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
Thank you for your time today.
Always my pleasure. Talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.